I have the PS for Immigration and Citizen Services, Professor Ambassador Bitok. I have the Principal Administrative Secretary for the National Police Service. And I have the apology of the Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Raymond Omolo, who has gone together with other government officials to condole with the family of the late Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha. You're most welcome. Fellow Kenyans, in marking 100 days since I assumed office as Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, I have had the opportunity to reflect on the past and on what has made Kenya so resilient as a nation, while also looking ahead to ponder the future and what can be done to make our homeland a safer, more secure, and better country. In my reflections on the state of our homeland security, I reckon that in academia, legal practice, and the legislature, I have traversed Kenya in those 100 days to see for myself, to hear for myself from our fellow citizens what they go through every day. I have seen a country in need of service. I have heard from citizens thirsting for the liberty to hustle for their families, free from the fear of criminals. I have held consultative meetings with citizens, leaders, and assorted stakeholders from different parts of the country to discuss the security challenges facing our homeland. To secure every part of Kenya, the government is committed to work with all stakeholders to develop locally generated but nationally implemented security priorities and solutions. To generate adequate political goodwill at the local level, I decided to consult and hear from members of the National Assembly, senators and governors from all the 47 counties of the Republic of Kenya. So far, I have completed physical consultative meetings here at Harambee House with members of the National Assembly, senators and governors from 25 counties, namely Tana River, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, Meru, Tharaka Nithi, Embu, Kitui, Machakos, Makueni, Kirinyaga, Turkana, West Pokot, Samburu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo, Laikipia, Kajiado, Vihiga, Kisumu, Kisii, and Nyamira. I will be meeting the leaders of the remaining 22 counties physically within the next 30 days. I am convinced beyond peradventure that the realization of our collective dream of a crime-free Kenya is the bedrock upon which our economic transformation agenda will rise. In relation to confronting crime, we have stepped up the fight against the threat of terror. We have disrupted many terror plots at source, neutralized and or arrested dozens of suspected terrorists, and destroyed a huge cache of weapons and explosives that could have badly harmed our people if these criminals were not intercepted. The current crackdown on Al-Shabaab terror cells in Somalia, which is spearheaded by the local community there, with the support of the federal government of Somalia, has tremendously weakened this dangerous militant group. Our security agencies are alert to ensure that these militants do not cross into our territory, and they are determined to keep at bay this terror group now that it is at its weakest ever. We have stepped up our border patrols and upped our surveillance on the proliferation of illicit arms, narcotic drugs, and psychotropic substances. We have improved on our intelligence gathering to stay several steps ahead of the enemy. We are always aware that terrorists only need one lucky break to hurt our country and inflict us with pain. Therefore, we always ensure we strike fast and fast to neutralize them and obliterate their nefarious networks. As our hardworking officers in the elite, specially trained formed units remain engaged to keep terror at bay, their colleagues on general duties have helped us to significantly reduce the general rate of crime in the country during the past 3 months. During the period under review, crime in the country has decreased by 13.5% from 8,297 reported incidents to 7,179 incidents in absolute numbers. Urban crime, especially the Nairobi muggings that had threatened to disrupt our way of life and businesses in our capital city in the September-October season, has now been contained. While this is good news, we intend to work so hard to ensure that we bring these crime statistics even further down. The nearly 6,000 new police officers who have joined the National Police Service in the last 100 days, as well as nearly 3,000 Kenya Prison Service officers who have graduated, together, these officers guarantee us the sustainability of the fight against crime. The new officers will be deployed to security hotspots across the country immediately to further buttress the security of our people and their property. In relation to banditry and livestock rustling, first, we have sought to understand the problem. And this is the problem. For years, our fellow citizens in the Kenya of the North have lived in mortal fear and dread of bandit attacks. For decades, our people in these areas have been killed, maimed, and dispossessed of their property by murderous gangs of bandits and rustlers. Many victims of this terrible crime against innocent civilians resorted in arming themselves to protect their loved ones and their property. Others were driven out of their homes to live in destitution in faraway hideouts. Nothing, fellow Kenyans, is more dehumanizing than dispossessing a human being and dislodging them from their home. In the past 100 days, I have deeply sought to understand the anatomy, pulse, and lifeline of this decades-old atrocity of banditry and rustling, which over time has metamorphosed into an elaborate criminal enterprise. I have come face to face with the unthinkable ruin left behind by cattle rustlers, the orphans, and the widows who have been consigned to utter destitution by these felonry anarchists. Banditry and livestock rustling have occasioned untold socioeconomic decay that has in turn worsened and deepened the marginalization of affected communities, as evidenced by the closure of schools, abandoned market centers, and deserted health facilities. Many individuals in the affected areas had long given up on the government. Thankfully, we are now slowly building and rebuilding public trust in the government and the security agencies who continue to keep crucial public spaces safe and secure from bandits, livestock rustlers, and hordes of other degenerates. There is some good news. And what is the good news? In the past 3 months, 60% of all livestock stolen across the 10 most affected counties, namely West Pokot, Laikipia, Meru, Turkana, Garissa, Samburu, Marsabit, Kitui, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Tana River, have been recovered. The only challenge is that they have been recovered in bits and pieces, because what these criminal gangs do is immediately they strike and steal the livestock. They divide it into small numbers and disappear in different directions. And that is why it is seldom that our security forces will be able to recover the stolen herd all at once. But I am glad to report that unlike in the past when recovery of stolen animals was minimal, we have been able to recover in bits and pieces approximately 60% of the stolen animals from the 10 most affected counties. And our security agencies are tracing the missing 40% of stolen livestock, even as we continue to monitor the meat supply chain across urban areas in the country to disrupt the existing criminal food chain. We have rolled out armament. We are involving the local communities in protecting livestock and working on transparent, open, fair, and accountable hiring of National Police Reservists in livestock rustling and banditry hotspots. We have also reopened 15 schools that had been closed due to bandit attacks. It is possible, fellow Kenyans, to end this menace permanently. The government is investing in community-based intelligence, drone surveillance technology, modern personal protection equipment and kitting for our security personnel, and application of land and air assets to neuter bandits and rustlers. To ensure success of this national endeavor, I have established a high-level counter-banditry land and air team, LAT, complete with a situation room at the ministry headquarters to oversight daily progress in this war. In the immediate, we must silence the guns in the north of our country. But in the short and long term, the government will roll out a Marshall Plan to open up this area with social and economic infrastructure projects such as water projects, road projects, hospitals, health facilities, and schools as the surest way of correcting historical developmental imbalances in our country. On behalf of a hurting nation, I pledge to oversee the complete and permanent end of banditry and livestock rustling in our country. The die is cast. So far, we have managed in the last 100 days to stir up and disrupt the banditry network. That explains why occasionally you will see some antics. And I want to assure the people of Kenya, neither the occasional antics nor the glorification that bandits are getting from a tiny minority of naysayers, neither will deter our resolve to eliminate them and the threat they pose to our country's search for peace and progress. Of course, we know that this being a problem that has spanned decades will not go away instantly. We are clear in our minds that this problem will be with us for a short while. We pray for the patience of the people of Kenya, the support, prayers, and moral solidarity as we dismantle, neutralize, and permanently disable this network of criminals that have caused untold suffering, the shedding of innocent blood, the suffering of populations, the dispossession and anguish in a large part of our country, actually approximately 66% of Kenya's landmass. Our resolve as a nation to eradicate this primitive and barbaric crime must remain consistent and focused and resolute. I take cue from President William Ruto that his administration will eradicate banditry and livestock rustling as a matter of course. And once more, I plead for the patience, patriotism, and the solidarity of the Kenyan people and all stakeholders as we wage a very consistent battle against bandits. And we want to make banditry and rustling part of our Kenyan history. And we want our children in the future to be reading how it was in the past. It is possible, we will do it, and I am going to lead from the front. Why am I convinced that we shall win this war in the long term? It is because, as the minister responsible, I have the support and guidance of the head of state and the commander-in-chief. I also have faith in the team at the ministry, which is working with me, including the PSs that you see behind me here today, but also the command, the rank and file of our security agencies. I am convinced that our security agencies, especially in the formed units, have the capacity to deliver the results that we require. The Kenyan public is in total solidarity with the victims of this horrendous crime. The combined energy of these support systems that I have enumerated will provide the tailwind that we require to permanently vanquish banditry and livestock rustling and eventually embarrass the tiny and patriotic minority among us who are still glorifying bandit attacks and their vain antics. We must all stand on one side as a nation to condemn and to diminish the ego of these criminals. With regard to citizen services, as well as immigration services, the delay in the issuance of the new Kenya passports, the e-passports, which had prevailed for the last 1 year due to lack of passport booklets and the breakdown of the printer at the Directorate of Immigration, that delay now has been resolved. The department is in receipt of 50,000 34-page booklets with a further 200,000 booklets expected this month and a similar figure each month for the next 6 months. The broken passport printer is now repaired, and we are in the process of acquiring a better and more efficient printer. All eligible applicants of the Kenyan passport are hereby advised that passport booklets are now available in sufficient numbers, and processing of passports has been expedited to conform to international standards. The ministry has set a target of tripling the number of Kenyan passport holders from the current 3.5 million to 10 million within the next 10 years, within the next 5 years. With regard to approval of citizens' applications for citizenship, permanent residence applications, and work permits by foreigners, I would like to report as follows. When I came into office on 27th of October 2022, I found a backlog of applications for citizenship spanning 5 years: 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And that backlog consisted 1,698 applications for the years I have just cited. Between the time I came to office and the 27th of January, another 421 applications had already been processed, gone through the various institutional vettings and recommendations of the various bodies and committees pursuant to the dictates of our Constitution and the Citizen and Immigration Act. I am happy to report as follows. By 27th of January 2023, I have cleared and made a determination on all the 1,698 applications for citizenship which had been pending for the period 2018 to 2022, and I have also made a determination and cleared all the 421 applications that had been processed and were only waiting for the signature of the minister by the 27th of January 2023. Therefore, any person who has been waiting to become a citizen of Kenya and had met the legal requirement and had gone through all the procedural issues, I am happy to ask them to contact the State Department of Immigration and Citizen Services, particularly the Directorate of Immigrations, to pick their certificates and documents for citizenship, for permanent residence, and work permits. Over and above what I have said, I would like to say also, some of these applications, although made 5, 4, 3 years ago, involve people who have stayed in our country for many years. And when I was clearing the backlog, I stumbled on an applicant who I happened by chance to know. A person from Pakistan called Tamina Kadabai, who has been in Kenya continuously since 1971. Against her, she's now approaching 90, and she has been waiting for a determination on her residency status because of her failing health and advanced age. And you know, when we give these statistics, fellow Kenyans, we are talking about real people. We are talking about real people who, some of them have been waiting in agony. And I've just given that example. And I know there are many more deserving cases who have waited for years for no apparent reason. I have also approved 815 applications for citizenship for spouses and dependents of Kenyan citizens. In accordance with our law, there is a procedure in which a spouse or a child, a dependent child of a Kenyan citizen can acquire citizenship, again spanning 5 years. All of them now are cleared. All those spouses and children of Kenyan citizens who have been waiting for this service, that service has been rendered fully and completely. I have also signed 808 applications from Kenyans who had sought to regain the citizenship of Kenya because, as you're aware, under the old constitution, a Kenyan could not be a national of another country. Dual citizenship was not permitted. But after the constitution came into effect in 2010, it was made possible for someone who had lost Kenyan citizenship by denouncing the Kenyan citizenship and taking up the citizenship of another country under the old constitution. They have an opportunity under the current constitution to apply for regaining Kenyan citizenship. And again, these are Kenyans. These are people of Kenya. They are just saying, because the law never permitted before, now that the law permits, we would want to enjoy the citizenship of where we live, but also regain the citizenship of our country of birth. All 808 applications have also been determined and processed. And I want to ask them, their relatives, to go and pick their citizenship certificates and enjoy the liberties of the new constitution for dual citizenship. I have directed the Directorate of Immigration Services and the State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services to ensure all decisions on all applications for citizenship, permanent residency, and work permits must be processed within 21 days from the date of application. On my part, I pledge to make my determination and convey my decision on the recommendations that are forwarded to me within 7 days after those recommendations have been received at my desk. In matters of registration and registration of persons, the ministry has initiated the policy framework for efficient online registration of birth and deaths, and we shall be launching this online registration of birth and deaths on 1st of March 2023. We have also initiated the policy framework of introducing a unique personal identifier, UPI, at birth. And again, we are looking for a suitable date within April, May to launch this unique personal identifier, UPI, at birth for all newborns born in the territory of Kenya. This number will be the child's personal number. When they join school, it will be their number in that sector. When they turn 18, it will be their ID number. It will be their NHIF or it will be the NHIF, that is the insurance number, and social security number. It will be their number. And when they leave this world, it will be their death certificate number. And that UPI will only expire at the expiry at death by the holder of that number. In the period between now, when we are launching the UPI, and 18 years from today, when the UPI starts becoming the ID, we have again initiated the policy framework to transit our country to a third generation smart ID, which will involve digital identity. In a nutshell, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, these are what we consider in the Ministry of Interior and National Administration as our 10 achievements in 100 days. One, we were able to develop a very elaborate terms of reference, which were gazetted to support the work of the task force that is now working on terms and conditions of service and other reforms in the National Police Service and the Kenya Prison Service. The terms of reference, elaborately drafted, conceived to make sure that we don't leave any room of the reforms that we require in the National Police Service and the Kenya Prison Service. That task force was gazetted by His Excellency the President on 21st of December 2022. Its work is ongoing. Number two, we have been able to open the Police Leadership Academy, and we are now generating the curricula, working together with the command, the National Police Service, to ensure that we are able to introduce a doctrine, a new, better, modern policing doctrine, especially for those officers who are in command and leadership, as a way of generating a paradigm shift of our policing in conformity with the dictates of the new constitution and the complexity of modern day crime. We want the National Police Service and the Kenya Prison Service to be professional services where an officer can join the service and grow up the ranks without having to know someone, without having to corrupt anybody. And what determines their level of responsibility is their ability to be able to carry out their work well and, of course, to achieve the targets which are put by their superiors. So that we don't have an endless an endless or an indeterminate way of promotions and career progression. So the Police Leadership Academy, which sits on 100 acres in Gong, that academy will be used to inculcate command doctrines for our rejuvenated National Police Service, so that from there we can grow new, more dynamic, younger commanders who are conversant with modern day policing complexities. Number three, we have managed to accelerate the construction of the National Police Hospital at Mbagathi. Still not complete, but we've made some good progress. The Kenya Prisons Hospital in Roiro, very good progress, almost complete. And we have completed and equipped the Border Police Hospital in Kanyonyo, Kithure County, which will be opened by His Excellency the President on 24th of February 2023. Number 4, we have streamlined the issuance of passports procedures and the restoration of our passport supply chain, which had stalled for almost a year. Number 5, we have initiated the process of acquisition and installation of the Advanced Passenger Information System, API, e-gates, and a modern electronic security surveillance at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to enable JKA to retain the global Category 1 airport status. Number 6, we have initiated the policy framework for the introduction of the online registration of births and deaths. As I have said, this program will be launched on 1st of March 2023. Number 7, we have initiated the policy framework for the introduction of a unique personal identifier at birth for all newborns. Number 8, we have initiated the policy framework for introduction of the 3rd generation smart digital ID. Number 9, we have been able to clear a backlog of 5 years, 2018 to 2022, on the determinations of applications for citizenship, permanent residency, work permits, and we have also cleared the 2023 applications. My desk is free and empty. Finally, number 10, we have managed to reduce the overall rate of crime in the country, including sustaining our effort to keep terrorists at bay, stirring up and disrupting the banditry network, which we want to sustain in the coming months, and also reducing the overall crime statistics in our country and the containment of the surge in crime in Nairobi, which had threatened to disrupt life and businesses in this city in the August-October peak. This is our public accountability statement as we mark 100 days in office. Going forward, we intend to make regular public accountability statements of progress made every 3 months, consistent with the Kenya Kwanza administration policy of an open government. We have nothing to hide, but we may not have time to be talking all the time. So that balance we will strike by making sure every 3 months at least we can report progress. The other time, please let us meet in the field. Let us meet in the various spaces from which we operate. With support from Kenyans, I am confident that we shall build a safer, more secure country that every person lives with pride and dignity. A country that can attract local and foreign investment for the realization of the bottom-up transformation agenda, BETA, better, as espoused in the Kenya Kwanza plan. I thank you. God bless Kenya, our country. God bless Kenya, our homeland. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I can take not more than 3 questions because I promised last time that I will not be in a lot of hurry, but we've been here for a while. We need to move on to some urgent assignment, but I'll take 3 questions, the first 3.
Good afternoon, Waziri. My name is Leila Mohammed from NTV. Please give us a status report of the activities in the Kerio Valley Belt, especially in regards to the schools that you have reopened, the security status, and you had promised that police will guard the students and their teachers. And there's also a process to transport teachers in the Lamu County Belt. Other than just transporting them, how are you securing the schools and the teachers as well?
We are doing our best to make sure that the schools that were reopened are never shut again. And the schools that are yet to open because of infrastructural challenges are supported with the infrastructure to reopen immediately. We are also committed to making sure that we don't disrupt education in Lamu. As for the Kerio Valley progress, I'll be spending 3 days there physically starting tomorrow. Just send your reporters. We'll give them updates on what is happening there. But we are thoroughly serious that we must secure our country, and we cannot surrender our countries to criminals. Next.
Waziri, this is Richard Kagoy from the BBC. Just a question in reference to the situation in northeastern Kenya. So there's been an influx of refugees from neighboring Somalia. Majority of them not necessarily displaced because of the ongoing military offensive, but because of the impacts of the devastating drought experience in in the Horn of Africa. So we're seeing about 100,000 new arrivals, and most of them have come over the last 8 months. Thousands have been able to settle in the outskirts of the camps. And the government gazetted the reopening of 2 camps, that's Ifo 2 and Cambios in Jarajila. So there's been a plea, especially from the humanitarian sector, in terms of the official registration of the new comers from neighboring Somalia. So we just want to find out when is the registration set to kickstart? And then also for purposes of emphasis is about criminal elements, disguising themselves as, vulnerable population coming seeking for humanitarian assistance, how that's going to be done in terms of filtering out such individuals, and an update in terms of the reopening of the Mandera border post.
Thank you. The onslaught against Al-Shabaab in Somalia, coupled with a number of other factors, has caused an inflow of asylum seekers from Somalia, about 100,000, as maybe a little less. We are going to start the screening and the status determination procedures in the next 1 month, in accordance with the law of our country and the United Nations Convention on the Status of Refugees of 1951, which Kenya is a state party to, and which is part of the law of Kenya by operation of Article 2.5 of the Constitution. We will start in a month. The issue of the Mandera border is work in progress. As I said, we intend to consider reopening shortly, subject to a number of things which I cannot pronounce in this space. Thank you. Last one.
My name is Chemutai going from Citizen TV, and I have one question. You have rightfully stated in your statement that in the meetings you've held with leaders, you've had sessions with political leaders from the counties, different counties, to know the challenges they are going through. And you've stated that you will be going to the Kerio Valley region in the next 3 days. Some of the issues relating to banditry and rustling have been attributed to politicians, and some have actually been fingered as being responsible for some of those atrocities. Maybe as you begin that journey, is it also one area of focus that you will be looking at as you try to sort out the issue?
Thank you very much. It is true, our continued engagement with political leaders is because we believe in generating solutions from the grassroots and then implement them from the national platform. But they are not the only ones we are consulting with. They are just part of the stakeholders. They are elected by the people. They have a mandate to represent the people. You cannot ignore them. You have to listen to them. And many of them have wonderful suggestions on how we can deal with the problems at hand. But we are also consulting communities, elders, civil society, and everyone, professionals, anybody who can give us ideas from the local level, ideas generated at the local level but implemented nationally. That is our policy. It is also true that some of the politicians could be implicated in our assessment. In line with the policy directive of this administration, we have completely depoliticized the security sector, and we are not available to discuss, engage, or support partisan politics. You've heard the president himself say that he doesn't want the support of security agencies to do politics, and he has enough supporters and leaders elected on his party who will help him transact his politics. Therefore, if any leader of whatever political formation is implicated in hurting our country for political reasons or commercial reasons or whatever reasons, I have made it clear in my consultations with them that we will be ruthless with them. We will deal with them without mercy, whether they are opposition politicians, whether they are government politicians, because it is not the political objectives of any political party to murder other people and steal their cattle. I don't think there is a single political party with a manifesto which includes murdering fellow citizens, stealing their livestock, and disrupting socio-economic activity. We'll be extremely ruthless, heartless, you can name it. We will not entertain politics of any kind whatsoever. I've made it clear, because they all come, every county, the governor comes, the senator, the members of National Assembly, many of them are elected on opposition politics, on opposition tickets, but it's none of my business from where I stand. My business is to hear from them what they think we can do to make our country safer, period. As to their politics, they can go and do elsewhere. Some of them are even doing demonstrations all over. I have no business with those who are doing demonstrations. Actually, I don't care. On one condition, that they keep law and order. The day they would try to break the law, the day they will try to breach peace, to incite public disorder, that is the day the full weight of the Ministry of Interior will come on them. They can do rallies, they can do even picketing, they can demonstrate, so long as far as they don't disrupt businesses, they don't force people who are not aligned to them to listen to them by force, they don't insult or incite public disorder. The rest, they can do their politics. They can talk about this or that. That's not my business. There is a political space where other people, either from government side or the other side, can engage. So we are very keen, and I've told all politicians, they are my friends and allies when they are helping me make Kenya a secure country. The moment they pose a threat to that aspiration, they are my clients in another sense. I thank you and wish you well. Asante sana, Mungu awabariki. Imefika tatu. Ya mwisho. Aya. Yes.
So I have a letter from different civil societies in Kenya who have concern about the police care. And I'll read a section of their letter where they say that in the last 2 years, the Kenya Police Service has made strides improving police service, delivery, services of sexual violence, including through the establishment of the police care system. Indeed, a policy and a strategy that on the same was developed. Unfortunately, police care is yet to be fully implemented so that the survivors can access the valuable services that the unit purports to provide. Can you please answer to these unfortunate allegations that the police care do not lead to fully implement the services for the sexual-based violence?
But I thought you started by saying the police has made some good progress. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I know there is a however, but I thought you started by saying good progress has been made.
Yeah, but they have not implemented the valuable services to enable
Just shows if good progress has been made, that is the next step.
Okay.
Progress is good.
Okay.
I'll be worried if we are talking about regression. Asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki. Have a good afternoon. Asante.